Palestine. So in today's program, we'll be discussing the significance of Palestine, the significance of Quds, and as to why we in America or all over the world are so caring of this noble cause. So today's lecture, I'll start off by making a brief introduction of who Brother Abbas Hamideh is. First of all, Brother Abbas Hamideh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to give a brief introduction as to who this brother is and about your cause as well. So Brother Abbas Hamideh is originally from the 1948 infamously massacred village of Deir Yassin in West Jerusalem. He's a prominent Palestinian political activist and organizer based in the USA. He is a founding member of Al-Awda, the Palestine Right of Return movement. Al-Awda, which literally means the return in Arabic. This organization has been in existence since April 9th, 2000. So it's been 18 years since Brother Abbas has been serving the Palestinian cause. This fully Palestinian-led organization predominantly focuses on fighting for the sacred Palestinian right of return. It is the powerful voice of over 7.2 million Palestinian refugees around the world waiting to return to their ancestral homeland, Palestine. Abbas Hamideh, the son of Al-Quds, Palestine, regards Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Palestine, all of Palestine, from the river to the sea. Brother Abbas, welcome to today's show, and
thank you.
It's truly an honor to have you in Houston and to speak to the community members about the significance of Palestine. Last night's program was absolutely the kind of responses I've been getting from our people. It's just out of this world amazing. So Brother Abbas, tell me something. What was your experience like visiting Houston, being a part of our community, and raising that noble cause and telling people about this noble cause? What was your experience like?
Well, first I want to start off by saying thank you for hosting me here in Houston, and it's really great. You know, it's an awesome feeling to get the word out on Palestine wherever you get an opportunity to.
Right.
Especially here in Houston. You know, the community here really cares about Palestine, about Palestine. The community here was very welcoming. As you know, I was here last year for Al-Quds Day rally.
Absolutely.
So that was a magnificent weekend when I came here as well, and we really had a great time for a great struggle. You know, so the same thing that happened. I mean, yesterday I saw people engaging, people in the masjid, you know, were really paying attention and really wanting to get involved. The questions were great. The mood was awesome. So I really loved it. I'm having a great time being here.
That's great. That's great. So you know what? We have only 60 minutes for this program, and my job is to suck all that you have inside of you out of you for this program, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And hopefully, with your message, we can try and get rid of a lot of stereotypes that people have about Palestine and about Palestinians as well. A lot of people are quite wary of the fact that why do Palestinians not protest for a free Palestine? And I always say that that's not true. A lot of people have this confusion. Yeah, a lot of people do not attend, but there's a huge majority that does.
Right.
And we have organizations like Al-Awda, and we have people like you who are seriously holding the banner of this struggle. So my first question to you is that you still have family living in Palestine.
Yes.
First of all, tell the people where they're from, and if you could just share some incident of oppression that your family recently faced.
Sure.
If you could just share that with us, please.
Well, as you know, and as some of the people in the struggle already know, I'll reiterate. My father is from Deir Yassin, which was a village in West Jerusalem that was massacred on April 9th, 1948.
Right.
Approximately 1/3 of the village was totally massacred, and after April 9th in 1948, the village of Deir Yassin was completely dismantled. It was completely ethnically cleansed. Today, there are no Palestinians. Actually, immediately after 1948, there were no Palestinians left in the village. And this has always been the goal of the Zionist entity. So as far as Deir Yassin, it was the fuse of the Nakba. It was to scare people, to make them run away. People in Palestine, as far as Haifa, Jaffa, once they heard about this gruesome and brutal massacre of Deir Yassin, fled. Okay, this is what started our catastrophe, which we call the Nakba. And My mother happens to be from East Jerusalem, Al-Isawiyah. So my father's side is from West Jerusalem, and my mother is from East Jerusalem in Al-Isawiyah, which is not too far from Old Jerusalem. And the oppression that they face in the village of Al-Isawiyah today is basically the ongoing Nakba of the Palestinian people. Most recently, which we shared a video on Facebook and you saw it, we've got about 150,000 views.
Wow.
Where people were shocked. There was a relative who owned a residential building that had two businesses on the bottom floors, which was a dry cleaning business and a pizzeria owned by some young Palestinians that were serving the village and the residents. So Israel demolished the building. This is something ongoing. It's not unique in occupied Palestine. They continue to do this in the name of Palestinians not having a permit.
Wow.
Yes, to basically build on top of what they already have, on top of the foundation. So Israel uses this excuse to demolish the entire buildings. Their plan is basically to destroy these buildings, to get rid of as many Palestinians as they can from Jerusalem, because they want to make it a unique Jewish city. They want to Judaize Jerusalem. So that is part of the greater plan in Palestine. So this was part of the destruction of this building, and it continues on. You know, these are people who live in a building. Where are they going to go? So you come home one day and you don't find a building. You know, you have minutes to evacuate before they destroy this building. And this is ongoing. It's ongoing in Jerusalem. Also, they do some really awful things, like during Ramadan, they have a sewage tanker that goes around the village and they spray the homes of people during the month of Ramadan. Yeah, can you imagine? People are fasting and they have to smell these really bad smells. So these just are two things from many. You know, and obviously Palestinian political prisoner issue that's been ongoing in this village in Al-Isawiyah, because the people in Al-Isawiyah stand up and they defend Al-Aqsa. Every time Al-Aqsa is attacked, the people of Al-Isawiyah, which is not too far from the old city, not too far from Masjid Al-Aqsa, rise up and run. They literally run to defend Masjid Al-Aqsa.
And this is West Bank, right? Al-Isawiyah is
No, this is Jerusalem. East Jerusalem. Yes, West Bank is not too far away from there as well.
Okay.
Yes, and then you have the village of Silwan, which is directly across from the old city as well, to the other side. And those people from there rush to save Al-Aqsa, basically. So they suffer a lot defending our holy shrines from the Zionist occupation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of your relatives might still live there.
Yes.
And I've heard that Al-Aswa, as you said, that
Al-Isawiyah.
Al-Isawiyah.
Yes.
A lot of resistance fighters, those people are considered very brave, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a city that continually rises up, you know, and a lot of them are non-violent, by the way.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And they defend their city, they defend their turf, because you also have a lot of illegal settlements around, and they're trying to creep up, you know, on these villages. They're literally trying to take Palestinians out of Jerusalem. So they've been suffering from this. So anybody who stands up, like Samir al-Isawi, who was on a 270-day hunger strike, you know, just salt and water. And while he was in prison, under administrative detention, basically protesting his imprisonment. So he went on a 270 legendary hunger strike and brought to the world what the Palestinian political prisoners as well. And his sister, Shireen al-Isawi, is an attorney who defended her brother, who was bringing out the plight of this village. And because of that, this family, al-Isawi family, is continuously attacked. You know, so these are my extended relatives inside the village that continue to fight the brutal occupation to this day.
Wow.
Yes.
So my second question with you would be, so Nakba Day just passed a couple of weeks back, and the world saw the atrocities that the Zionist regime committed against the innocent Palestinians. So you naturally are still connected with activists, peaceful activists who are on ground in Palestine, in Gaza as well.
Yes.
And I believe you're connected with on-ground journalists.
Absolutely.
And people who are in government authorities as well.
Yes.
What really happened there? If you could just tell the audience what actually happened. Is it all exaggerated as some people are saying? What exactly happened on Nakba Day?
Well, what happened in Gaza most recently, which was in the beginning of April, the Palestinians in Gaza decided to do a Great Return March, or the March of the Return.
Right.
Okay. So they decided that they want to go and basically break this barrier, break this fence. Now, they call it a border. As we know, there's no such thing as a border because this is their land.
Right.
This is Gaza. It's a fence. It's a fence to protect the Israeli occupation of Palestine. It is basically to protect the siege, the members of who are holding the siege. So it's not a border like a country border. This is their land. So they want it to go. 80% of the people of Gaza are Palestinian refugees who hail from different cities, different villages inside Palestine on the other side. So they hail from Haifa, from Jaffa, from Akka. So these people wanted to do a symbolic rally to break this fence, and they want to demand their return. So a lot of people misinterpret the slogans of the right of return or this fight as just a mere sentiment or just a dream. This is a reality on the ground.
Wow.
So these people wanted to practice peacefully their return to Palestine, to where they came from, to their villages, to their cities. So they started this mass peaceful rally, and they were being gunned down by the Israeli occupation. They were mercilessly being attacked. They're being sniped down. Men, women, even as far as an 8-month-old baby was killed in this process. So you've had about 140 people, 140 martyrs during this Gaza attack on the people, on the peaceful demonstrators, and 60 of them were murdered in just one day while they were doing this rally. So they held it all the way until May 18th,
Wow.
which was recent. So every day they were losing people during this rally. I believe the Israeli occupation showed its true faith. The brave people of Gaza have showed their resistance to this occupation and have showed their bravery to want to return to their homeland. So this is what it's all about. The right of return of Palestinian refugees is the essential and fundamental right of the Palestinian people, and it is the fundamental issue of Palestine. And this is what we as Palestinians, especially in exile, this is something that we want to do. Even here, I'm considered a Palestinian refugee from 1948. So we demand to return. This is the fundamental issue of Palestine. If you take out the right of return from the struggle, then there would be no Palestinian struggle. That's how important this is to us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our hearts go out and our heart bleeds for the massacre that's been taking place since 1948.
Yes.
And from what happened, I saw a picture of a 6-month-old girl who was sniped, I think. They sniped her.
Yes. It was basically, I believe it was remnants of a tear gas canister.
A tear gas canister.
Yes, that hit her in the head, which, as you know, the tear gas canisters are huge. It's still metal.
Right.
So some people mistaking this from being less lethal.
Right.
In many cases, it's actually more lethal. It's a large piece of metal. And yes, that was lodged into her head. This is a baby. That was murdered.
And all these protesters who were there at the border, well, the so-called border.
Yes.
They were men, women, children, innocent people, unarmed people who were there protesting for their basic fundamental right to return to their homelands.
Yes.
And they were denied their right, obviously, but they were answered with bullets.
Absolutely, that's the answer. The Palestinians commemorate the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe, every year on May 15th.
Yes.
So they held the rally from April leading on to May 15th. That was their objective. This is their way of commemorating al-Nakba and wanting to return.
It happens nationwide, or it happens in specific cities?
It happened nationwide, but mostly this was a movement that started in Gaza by the courageous people in Gaza. And of course, people in Ramallah also resisted. They also resisted the illegal occupation of Palestine, and they were doing that as well to stand in solidarity with their brethren in Gaza, with the Palestinians in Gaza. And this also happened in Haifa, in Jaffa, so there were demonstrations even in the 1948 occupied areas of Palestine.
On that note, I would really like to tell my audience that Nakba Day, just like Quds, it's celebrated throughout the world. Throughout the world. And the least we can do living outside of Palestine is to attend these rallies, to attend these protests, to attend to be a part of this activism. 15th of May, all over the United States, Nakba Day is commemorated. And if you live in a city where Nakba Day is not being held, it's your responsibility to establish Nakba Day, right?
Absolutely.
It's our
Absolutely.
fundamental responsibility as Muslims and as human beings to establish this day
Absolutely.
and to make it popular throughout the world, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So you must have heard this a couple of days back. Nikki Haley visited the University of Houston, and I happened to be a part of that entire process that took place. The walkout that happened.
Yes.
Students of Justice of Palestine did an amazing job. The entire protest was very well articulated. The speeches, the statements that they gave, the stuff that they did when they walked out was absolutely phenomenal. And we haven't had that video. And just to kind of tell the people as to what activism can really accomplish,
Yes.
I really want to share this. I'm sure most of us have already seen the video, but just to kind of reiterate what we're talking about here,
Yes.
the importance of activism in North America, I really want to share the Nikki Haley video in University of
Sure.
Houston with the audience right now.
Sure.
I'm here today following a very busy few weeks in American foreign policy.
Nikki Haley, the blood is on your hands. You continue to sign off on the genocide of the native people. You are
These were the courageous students of the University of Houston. The name of their organization is Students for Justice of Palestine, and I believe they have chapters pretty much nationwide in all the universities in the United States of America. But think about it. She comes here, Nikki Haley, talks about God knows what she wanted to talk about, but these kids, they were smart enough to not let it go because they're alive and they're
Absolutely.
smart. A lot of us, I feel, are still not aware as to how important and significant these things are and how fast our political environment is changing. So on that note, we know what Nikki Haley said. Nikki Haley specifically said, and correct me if I'm wrong, she said that no more Israel bashing in the UN anymore.
Yes.
Basically, that's what she said. My question is, you are a representative of the American people. You are paid by American tax dollar. You represent America in the United Nations, not Israel. Why are you even talking about Israel in the UN? Doesn't make sense. Now, we all know how corrupt our politicians are. I think it's no secret, right?
Absolutely.
But do you think, in general, do you think it's in the interest of Americans to support Israeli crimes?
Absolutely not. This is an ongoing phenomenon that the United States has been supporting Israel basically since inception. Harry Truman
Right.
was the first president of the United States to recognize this illegal entity. They call it a state. So they recognize the state of Israel all the way from 1948. And ever since, they have been supporting. And these are support of criminals. They're supporting crimes. Our tax dollars, over $10 million a day, go to support Israel. And most of it goes to military aid. So this is direct killing of
$10 million a day.
$10 million a day.
Unbelievable.
These are facts. You can check it. You can go to Google anywhere you want. These are facts that the United States supports Israel with over $10 million every single day. This is money that can be used right here in the United States.
Healthcare, education.
Absolutely.
Flint.
Yeah. So this is a phenomenon. What Nikki Haley did was insult to injury as well, is when the UN Palestinian ambassador got up to speak, she basically got up and left the room. So she's been insulting the Palestinians, insulting the Palestinian struggle by ignoring it, by her relentless support of the Israeli occupation. This is what it's about. So we need not mince words. They support the illegal occupation of Palestine. So with these courageous students right here in Houston, where I'm from, and this moment, I'm proud to be here because this SJP body protested Nikki Haley. She came into the room, and as soon as she started to speak, they stood up. The Palestinian flag was carried, Palestinian chants were carried, and basically making a point that continuing to kill Palestinian children, the Palestinian people, is a crime.
Right.
So this was something that was courageous, and we commend them. I think all of Palestine is proud of these students, proud of everybody that stands up for Palestine.
Right. Beautiful.
Yes.
I was also thinking that a lot of people, they feel that lobbying with congressmen, lobbying with the Democrats, lobbying with the Republicans might achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that lobbying or interacting with these criminals, I would call them criminals,
Yes.
you think is it really worth it? Is it a lack of resource to fund their campaigns in hope of them maybe doing something for us in terms of liberation of Palestine or many other issues? The Iraq bombings, the issue in Yemen, the issue in Syria. Do you think that will help?
We always have hope.
Right.
We have hope that we can change the minds of the politicians, but unfortunately it has not been working. There are Palestinians, there are Arab and Muslim organizations that are trying to lobby day in and day night, for various things, not just Palestine. They're lobbying for Muslims just to basically not have a Muslim ban, right? So we're protesting Trump. I think no matter which side you go and vote for, whether you're voting for the Democrats, whether you're voting for the Republicans, you have a constant issue of the politicians not listening to the Palestinian narrative. They've been ignoring the struggle of Palestine, and this is a crime. I unfortunately do not have any confidence in U.S. politicians to solve the Palestinian question or to basically better the Palestinian struggle. This has been apparent for 70 years now. So
Right.
I really do not have any confidence. The United States is not a genuine player in any peace talks when it comes to Palestine. They actually ignore. What do you want more than Donald Trump? I don't even like calling him president, to be honest. But this fool who's leading the United States government, who basically acknowledges that Jerusalem is the capital of this illegal occupation of Palestine, the capital of Israel. That is absolute nonsense. Palestine was and will always be the eternal capital of Palestine, regardless of what Trump says, regardless of what any politician thinks or believes. I mean, Palestine is ours and it will continue to be ours.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a crime in itself. It's against UN laws. It's against international law. It's against, I mean, we can cite these things, and as we know, sometimes these things work against us. So, but for whatever it's worth, even the US official position is that Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is illegally occupied Palestinian territory. That's the official US stance. And even Donald Trump went against that. So I don't know what to say in reference to that, you know?
Right.
They're supporting the crimes of Israel, and it must stop. I think the way to stop that is national mobilization, is to continue to do the work that we're doing now. Like you have Al-Quds Day rally coming up.
Right.
June 8th?
June 8th.
June 8th, right here in Houston and all across the world. They will be having Al-Quds Day rallies. And this is what's important. It's important that the Palestinians and their supporters stand up and continue to support Al-Quds. And when we say Al-Quds, we mean that Jerusalem is the capital of all of Palestine. We don't mean just 67. We mean from the river to the sea.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, tell me something. And this question might be a little controversial, but I have to ask you this. I see a lot of Palestinian, and I, no offense, but I call them so-called activists,
Yes.
lawyers and whatnot, coming on TV and neutralizing the Islamic resistance movements in Palestine by saying that, oh, they attacked Israel and innocent civilians died, and this is why Israel attacks them and we don't support them and this and that. So basically, I feel what they're doing by these statements is that they're neutralizing what's actually happening there. What's actually happening is the brutal killing of innocent men, women, and children by the Zionist regime.
Yes.
And a lot of Palestinians, activists, so-called activists, are promoting a narrative that they're doing that in self-defense, basically.
Yes,
If
yeah.
that stops, then everything gets solved, right?
Yes, yes.
So in your opinion, who are these people? First
Yes.
of all, please elaborate on that. I think exposing
Absolutely.
these people is very important. And secondly, why are they doing this?
Absolutely. Well, it is unfortunate. Yes, we do. We have Palestinians amongst us, so-called activists, as you mentioned, who come on national television, who come on CNN, CBS, MSNBC, and they have this narrative, this so-called two-state narrative, this narrative of weakening and minimizing these resistance groups in Palestine. You have Palestinian attorneys coming on TV who basically talk a good talk. You know, they really have their points, they have their facts, they have the UN resolutions, they have international law, everything together. But then they bash Hamas, for example, okay? And they bash the resistance in Palestine. You know, I don't know what to say on that, but you cannot talk about the Palestinian struggle in general and then bash the only resistance available in Palestine. I think that is very hypocritical. I think these people are basically opportunists. They worry about their jobs, they worry about their careers, they worry about being members of Congress in the future or have any political positions in the United States. So these people toe a fine line and they want to toe the mainstream narrative here in America at the same time. So they claim to be Palestinians, but at the same time they knock resistance groups. You know what I mean? And they say, well, basically that the Palestinians don't want these resistance groups. You know, so you're speaking about the illegal occupation, you're speaking about the suffering of the Palestinians, but at the same time you're bashing the only resistance available in Palestine. Whether we like them or not, whether we disagree with their tactics on how they fight, first of all, we cannot choose the methods because we live here in comfort in the United States. We can be a voice for them, but we cannot tell the Palestinian people on the ground on how to fight. We cannot tell them on how to choose their strategies to fight. We may disagree with them, and that's fine. But at the same time, to bash these people or to be afraid to stand up and say that these resistance groups in Palestine have a right to resist Israel. Because you often hear that Israel has a right to defend itself. How can an occupier have a right? You do not. Even in international law, the occupation is responsible for the people it occupies. So how can they have a right to defend themselves and the beleaguered Palestinian people who are suffering for 70 years,
Right.
who are pushed away from their homes, from their villages, who suffer every single day, who go through treacherous amounts of checkpoints in Palestine, of dehumanization. And then you have the audacity At the same time, while you claim to represent Palestine, you have the audacity to bash the Palestinian resistance, who, by the way, were chosen by the Palestinian people back in 2006 in the elections.
In the elections,
So you
right.
cannot say that the Palestinian people don't want these groups. That is, the furthest from the truth. So it is unfortunate. These are political ambitions. These are people who want to continue to get on TV, who want to be famous.
Right.
You know what I mean? And probably on certain payrolls to continue this behavior. So we must be skeptical of such activists. We must go with activists who basically support the fundamental issues of Palestine, who support the right of return of Palestinian refugees. If you do not speak on the right of return, then you have no place in this Palestinian struggle, because that is what it's all about. Without the right of return, there is no Palestinian struggle. So the people in Gaza have demonstrated how important the right of return is and how essential it is to the Palestinian struggle. So if you do not speak for that, then you really cannot consider yourself a genuine activist.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. So the two-state solution now. I think we're pretty sure what your stance on the two-state solution is. But my question is, if you do not support a two-state solution, why is that? Because I've noticed most of these people who we were just talking about right now, they are for a two-state solution.
Yes.
They are advocates of a two-state solution for a so-called peace. First of all, why are you against a two-state solution? And second of all, I think we're having a call. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Velayat TV.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Do you have a question, brother?
Yes. First off, I really like to thank you guys for the work and for everything that Velayat TV is doing for the Palestinian cause.
Thank you.
My question is for Brother Abbas. What can we do over here in the United States to stand with the Palestinian people? And sometimes we feel like what we're doing is not enough. Please elaborate on this, and I really appreciate your work.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. We're going to try and answer your question right now. Thank you. Jazakallah.
Okay, so what was the basic question and how?
He basically he's encouraging the Palestinian movement, and he kind of like tried to ask what the movement is all about.
Well, we need to do everything we can possibly do for Palestine. And like I said earlier, one of the things that we can continue to do is, for example, have this International Al-Quds Day. This is very important. There are many elements to get involved. You can get involved with several groups. If you're a student in college or a university, you can join the Students for Justice in Palestine. As Palestinians here, and of course their supporters, we can continue to boycott Israel. That is something that's very important and that has worked for us. And you can find that at bdsmovement.com or .net, and basically continue to emphasize how important it is to boycott Israeli products. This is something that has worked for us. And it's not just about boycotting Israeli products. We also try to affect change in the sense of entertainers who basically want to go and perform in Israel, right? Or in occupied Palestine. We need to basically persuade them not to go and support this vicious and criminal entity that is suppressing the Palestinian people. There are many avenues to go. You can even join Al-Awda. Start a chapter where you're at. Al-Awda, the Palestine Right of Return movement, and get involved in the fundamental rights of Palestinians in the movement.
Thank you so much. I hope that answered the brother's question. If any of you have any question that you'd like to ask, please feel free to contact us. Visit our website, is velayattv.org, and you'll find further details over there as well. So we were talking about the resistance movements and the two-state solution. So we're still on that question, the two-state solution. Why is it that these people, some so-called activists, support a two-state solution? And why is it that you are specifically against it? And I mean, if you think about it, it does sound kind of reasonable, don't you think? A two-state solution, everything's going to get solved. Do you think it's going to solve the killing of innocent men, women, and children if there is a two-state solution?
Well, absolutely not. As we know, the two-state solution is just a distraction. It's been an ongoing distraction. The so-called Palestinian representatives, who are not elected, by the way, are negotiating on behalf of the Palestinian people. So what are they exactly negotiating? What are these teams, whether it's Syed Asim or whether it's these people who are in the positions of power in the Palestinian Authority, what are they really representing? And what is a two-state solution? If you look at the two-state solution, it's not like they're giving this whole big country to the Palestinians and then they're giving the rest, right, to the Israeli population. If you look at them, these are Bantustans. These are like little islands, little pieces in Palestine that they're giving. The Palestinian people still would not have control by land, air, or sea. So if you don't have control of your airspace, if you don't have control of your land, if you don't have control to your own water resources that are stolen by the Israeli occupation and then basically refueled or re-given back to some areas that they choose, and the water is not purified like the so-called Israeli citizens. There's a huge difference on what the Palestinians receive, and what the occupiers or colonizers continue to receive. So it is not equal. It is if you look at it, technically it's about, I think, 12% of original Palestine. That's the two-state solution. You need to look into things. Everybody can say a two-state, a two-state is possible. It's not possible at this time. And then the continued building of the walls that are still continuing to creep inside Palestinian land. There are many variations that you have to look into. So at the same time, while they're talking about the so-called two-state solution, they're continually building illegal settlements in Palestine. They're continuing to build the wall and extend it. They're continuing to steal more Palestinian land as they're talking about this so-called two-state solution. And then what is a two-state? What is a two-state to somebody like me who is from 1948 Palestine, for example? The two-state solution does not have anything for the Palestinian refugees. It does not have a status. They call it the final status. They keep putting back the right of return on the back burner. So a two-state solution does not serve somebody like me. It does not give me the right to return to Palestine. So obviously that's not going to work.
I think we're getting another phone call. Welcome to Velayat TV. This is Syed Asim Naqvi, your host.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I do, brother. So I have a question for Brother Abbas on the show.
Sure.
So my name is Rami Ibrahim, and I'm a very good friend of Brother Abbas, and just wanted to ask a question, something that many people should know the answer to, as far as people that support Palestine. And the question is, what do you have to say to those that are blaming most of the people like to say conflict of war fighting, but it's not. It's one way. What they call those people that when they say Israel is fighting because of Hamas, but that most of the problems that's happening is because of Hamas. What do you say to those people?
Did you get the question, man?
Yes. How you doing, Rami? Rami is a Palestinian Muay Thai champion, by the way.
Oh wow!
Yes,
that's
kickboxing
amazing.
Champ. Yes.
Is he from Houston?
He is in Philadelphia, and he actually just retired on his last fight. He was victorious and undefeated as a champion.
Wow.
So it's an honor to have this call from Rami Ibrahim, who is a very good friend of mine.
Wow.
So the question is basically, I think from what I've gathered or what he's saying is that people continue to blame Hamas, or they blame the Palestinians for the occupation. And I don't think there's anybody who said it best than Professor Edward Said, the late professor, who said that the Israelis continue to blame the victims, or the media in general blames the victims. They continue to blame Hamas. Well, number one, Hamas came into existence approximately 40 years after the Israeli occupation of Palestine. So Israel occupied Palestine in 1948. Hamas came in about 1987. So how can we continue to blame Hamas when they came 40 years after the Israeli occupation of Palestine? I think that is ludicrous. It is nonsense, and we need to continue to educate people and let them know simple facts. It's just simple facts, simple hits. We can encourage them to look these facts up because the occupation came before the resistance. And it doesn't make sense. And they continue to blame the Palestinians. Well, the Palestinians don't want peace, and the Palestinians don't want this, and the Palestinians don't want that. And that's the furthest from the truth, because the Palestinians do, in fact, want peace. But the Israeli occupation, the Zionist movement, was designed to ethnically cleanse Palestine.
Absolutely.
So how can we expect the Israeli occupation to be peaceful with the people it oppresses? It doesn't make sense. If you want peace, then you need to stop funding Israel. The United States government needs to cease its funding from our tax dollars, by the way, that we gave no one permission to support the Israeli occupation, to support the murder of our people. That's what needs to stop. You need to stop funding the occupation. You need to stop supporting this lunatic, Benjamin Netanyahu, when he comes up and he shows these cartoons of mass distraction. These are the things that the United States needs to start doing in order for it to be anywhere conceived that it has any genuine intent on the Palestinian struggle. And so far, they're not showing that, unfortunately.
Now, that was a really good answer, by the way. But we just spoke about the resistance movement, and before that we spoke about the two-state solution and how against you are, and how most genuine people who really feel and understand the issue of Palestine, they do not accept a two-state solution, right?
Yes.
But then having said that, recently there was a change in an amendment in the charter by the resistance movement, and then in which they were open to an idea of a two-state solution. Could you just elaborate on that? What really happened there?
Yeah. I looked at the documents that were released, online or in the press releases, and we saw Benjamin Netanyahu basically rip up the paper, right? Rip up this new document of Hamas.
Right.
And he said it was unacceptable. I think what Hamas did was a tactical revisement of their charter, and I looked at it, and it's actually very similar. It's not too far off from the original documents. I think they basically said that if it's a key thing here, that if the Palestinian people were to be, like, for example, if the Palestinian people decided on this solution, whatever it is, two-state or not, that they would be for it. So I think Hamas is being tactical on this aspect, and they're playing intelligently, and they're saying we would agree with what our people want, as opposed to what the Palestinian Authority is doing. They're dictating to us what they want, and then at the same time they claim to be representative or the sole representative of the Palestinian people. So I think if you're looking at a tactical positioning, I think Hamas was intelligent in doing that. So technically there was a revisement, but it's not too far off. Of course, we continue to monitor that, as far as what the positions are of these bodies in Palestine who claim to be representative of the Palestinian people. And we'll continue to monitor it. I mean, anybody who basically goes astray from what the Palestinians want, and what I mean is the Palestinian refugees, because they make up the majority of the Palestinian people. You have over 7.2 million Palestinians across the world who are internally and externally displaced from their original lands and homes in occupied Palestine. Those are the people who have a say, who have a key role to play in Palestine. So as long as you have representatives who represent what the majority of Palestinians want, then that's fine, we will back them. But if they go astray from those fundamental issues of what the Palestinians want, then of course they deserve no backing. Whether you're an activist, whether you're a resistance movement, whether you're simply a well-known Palestinian figure. If you do not support what the majority of Palestinians want, if you're not in line with what the people want, then you will not be supported.
So is the PA supported by the people of Palestine?
Absolutely not. The Palestinian Authority is simply, to be straightforward, is an extension of the illegal occupation of Palestine.
So how are they still in power? And their power extends it's in West Jerusalem as well? It's in West Jerusalem as well as in Gaza?
In Jerusalem, they don't have any powers because it's still up in the air, so to speak. And obviously with Trump now saying that it's the capital of so-called Israel, the illegal occupation.
All right. We're getting another phone call.
Sure.
Welcome to Velayat TV. How can I help you? Welcome to Velayat TV. Do you have a question?
Did we lose a caller?
I think we lost a caller, yeah. Welcome to Velayat TV.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Excellent discussion. What would feel about the changing dynamics within the American Jewish population, particularly with the growth of JVP, and at least generation, the decline of AIPAC's position?
Thank you so much for your question, brother. Thank you. I think we have another caller, and I'm going to try. We're going to try and take two questions.
Okay.
Welcome to Velayat TV. How can? Do you have a question? Could you repeat the question, please? Okay, I think the line dropped. So you got the question the brother just asked right now.
Yeah. He was basically asking about what are the positions of JVP,
Yeah.
the Jewish Voices for
The
Peace.
Jewish. Yeah.
Well, the Jewish Voices for Peace is an organization out there that is supporting Palestine, and we welcome all organizations. It doesn't matter what your faith is. We are obviously, as Palestinians, anti-Zionist. We need to make that very clear, and we need to continue to reiterate, unfortunately, because a lot of people basically like to basically misguide people and deceive people by saying that, you know, we're anti-Semitic, or anybody that criticizes the illegal occupation as being anti-Semitic. Even the BDS movement now is considered anti-Semitic. So you're having laws in place, you're having basically local governments, state governments who are banning BDS, who are criminalizing any action to boycott Israel. And so JVP is another body. It's a wonderful group that wants to support Palestine, and that's fine. I do believe that anywhere you go, we do have some sort of elements in the Palestinian struggle, or who claim to support the Palestinian struggle. We're actually gatekeepers, and we have to be cognizant of that. I mean, I'm just being very straightforward.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I'm not accusing any organization in particular, but we, the Palestinian people in the movement, the leaders of this struggle, whether in the United States, whether in Europe, whether in anywhere around the world,
Right.
we must be always aware, and we must be cautious. Because we have elements in the struggle who are gatekeepers.
Right.
They're not clear. As long as they're clear, as long as they support the right of return, as long as they support the leadership, the Palestinian leadership, we're fine with that.
We have one more question.
Sure.
Welcome to Velayat TV. Do you have a question, brother or sister?
Yes, I do.
Could you ask your question, brother? All right. So coming back to our original question now, so I would like you to complete your answer on the change of charter within the resistance movements on the two-state solution. We'd already spoken about how they're being smart, they're being vigilant, and then we spoke about the PA. So the PA actually has power within Gaza?
Right now they do, yes. There was basically a peace agreement, or basically an agreement, you know, between the Hamas government in Gaza and the Palestinian Authority. So they're sharing powers, at least on the surface. This was the agreement that was made between them, and this is what we're told. So most recently they received basically a contingent of the Palestinian Authority who are now operating in Gaza. So as of today, we have not seen how they benefit the Palestinian people. I mean, with the recent murder that has been going on with the Great Return March in Gaza, we have not seen the Palestinian Authority. What benefit did we receive as Palestinians, or Palestinians in Gaza? What benefits have they received from this authority? Have the conditions gotten better? Have they stopped the people from being murdered? So we need to ask ourselves, these people in power who we did not elect, what are they doing for the Palestinian people? Even though you don't have our authorization to represent us,
Right.
What are you doing there? Have you stopped the checkpoint? Have you gotten rid of the wall? Have you gotten us an inch back in Palestine? They have done nothing for the Palestinian people.
Right.
Are you supporting the right of return of Palestinian refugees, which they're clearly not? That's something that they cannot even touch anymore. As this, body of this body of authority. I mean, it's a complete joke. Any genuine Palestinian on the ground knows that the Palestinian Authority is a complete joke.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They are an extension of the occupation of Palestine. They aid the Israelis with security measures if they need to arrest a Palestinian, whether he's a fighter or not. If he is somebody who's just in question or somebody that the Israeli occupation wants jailed, the Palestinian Authority basically does that for them. So they're doing their dirty work.
Thank you so much for that answer, brother. So we only have 3 more minutes left, so I'm going to come to my last question now. And as a Palestinian belonging to the Sunni school of thought, who are our brothers, of course, how do you feel about Imam Khomeini announcing the day of Quds and making it obligatory upon Muslims to raise a voice for Palestine on Quds Day, which is the last Friday of every Ramadan? What do you feel about that?
Well, I, as a Palestinian, first and foremost, and of course, as a Muslim in general, as a human being, we support anybody that does anything positive for Palestine. And I think what Imam Khomeini did, the leader of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, was brilliant with creating Al-Quds Day. It was a statement that he made on behalf of the Ummah, on behalf of the Palestinian people, on behalf of the Muslim people, and basically in support of the Palestinians.
Right.
So that is something that he did that was courageous, that was brilliant. It was a statement that not just Iran, but the Muslim Ummah, he asked the world to stand in support of Al-Quds, which is the eternal capital of Palestine. So I think that was a brilliant move on his behalf, on Iran's behalf, to stand in solidarity. And this is something that's wonderful within the Palestinians. It's a nice feeling when you have these rallies, have these mass demonstrations, have the support. How could a Palestinian not appreciate this type of support? So of course, as a Palestinian, I appreciate all kinds of support from all nations, from all governments, and especially the Muslims.
Absolutely.
Especially the Muslims, they should stand for Al-Quds, because as you know, it is a holy shrine. Okay, it is the third most important shrine in Islam.
Absolutely.
So this is something very important, especially for Jerusalem in itself.
Brother Abbas, thank you so much for those answers. And I can tell you one thing, and you must already know this: Quds Day is commemorated throughout the world. Even in a place like Yemen, where there are so many mustadafeen, so many oppressed, they're dying of famine in Yemen right now. Yet they come out in millions to raise a voice for Palestine, because truly we believe that if the issue of Palestine is solved, everything else comes in place. The Syrian conflict gets solved.
Absolutely.
The issue of Yemen gets solved. Iraq, anywhere where the Zionists are either funding indirectly or are actively involved in oppression, it will get solved. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Brothers and sisters, it was truly an honor to host Brother Abbas Hamadeh in today's program, and I would seriously encourage everyone to support Al-Awda, which is Brother Abbas Hamadeh's organization, and I would humbly request each and every one of you, whoever is hearing our voice, our plea throughout the world, to commemorate Quds Day, commemorate Nakba Day, and show up in numbers. It is not just a religious responsibility to raise a voice against oppression for the oppressor, but it is also our responsibility as a human being. We see on a regular basis that men, women, and children, innocent men, women, children, are dying every day. The least we can do is help them raise a voice against oppression. On that note, I would like to thank you all for bearing with us for this entire 60 minutes. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.